This is the Follow Me video for M4, Simple Turtle Objects. Prior to this, you've done Follow Me videos for M1E, an example video, M2, all of it, and M3, to-dos 1 through 5. In class, you'll pick up from to-do 6, as it shows there. Okay, here we are inside M4, so open up M4 if you haven't already. In that, you'll learn about what's called objects using a system that dates back more than 50 years called Turtle Graphics. Fascinating history. Google for it if you'd so choose. You'll learn 3 basic ideas: constructing an instance of a class, applying methods to make objects do things, and using instance variables to get data from an object. So let's go up to to-do 1 here first. So to-do 1 says put your name here where it says up there on line 14. So go ahead and put your own name where it says put your name here. You'll do that in just about every exercise from here out. Stop the video and put your name there, and then resume the video. By the way, this thing here that's highlighted is what's called a dot comment. It's a string that goes across multiple lines. That's what the triple quotes do. So that's, like I say, a dot comment. It describes a chunk of things here, the whole module. So mark to-do 1 is done, and then move on to to-do 2. Again, pause the video at any point or rewind or whatever you need to do to stay in sync. To-do 2 points out that there's something in red up top there, higher up, that says that module Rose Graphics, which you see down there, it's not an M module, so you do nothing with Rose Graphics. It just has library code that makes this turtle graphics stuff that you're about to see happen. But module M4 has an import that attempts to import that module, Rose Graphics, and it's not aware of where Rose Graphics is. So we have to tell it where Rose Graphics is. And so the way we do that, we right-click on SRC and then go way down there. You'll see Mark Directory As. It's off the screen of the video, but right-click on SRC, go way down, you'll see Mark Directory As, and then in that sub-option, choose Sources Root. Try it out now. It's written down in the to-do, so you don't follow what I'm saying. Just read what to-do 2 says to do and do it. So go ahead and do that now, pausing the video as needed. If you're having any troubles with that, as with everything, you can just watch the video and then ask questions in class and do the follow me part at that point if you're having troubles with any of this. Anyhow, so we're going to right-click on SRC, mark Directory As, Sources Root. That's to-do 2. So I'm going to go down there and mark to-do 2 as done. Again, just read to-do 2 and do what it says to do if you're not clear on that. And so there it is, highlighting what you were to do. And you'll see that Rose Graphics that we used up there no longer had red by it. It was no longer treated as an error. We're ready to do to-do 3 now, which is to run the module. So you're going to right-click anywhere in there and select Run M4. And you'll see, as I'm showing here, what's called turtle graphics. So a turtle moved out there to the right, went over and up, and a different turtle went in that red stuff there. And so you're going to learn how to make that sort of thing happen. And in doing so, you'll learn these basic fundamental concepts of how you can use objects to do stuff. Here's the run again, just so that you can see it. It then says to go ahead and, after running it, to look at the code below. And so we're going to do that together. You're almost bound to have questions about these things. Just bring those questions to class. You're going to learn lots more about everything in this video prior to session 2. But even before session 1, you can get the basics of 4 ideas. First is how you construct what's called an instance of a class, an object. So I'm going down there and I'm going to show you the notation. So that line constructs an instance of what's called a turtle window. We can tell that it's constructing an instance. It's from the Rose Graphics module, RG being short for it, import Rose Graphics as RG. So the RG dot just tells the system to go off to look for something for turtle window in Rose Graphics. And if you hover over it, you get a little bit of not particularly helpful documentation. More on that shortly. But notice what the notation is. you put the name of the class, turtle window. Class names will always begin with an uppercase letter, and nothing but class names will begin with uppercase letters. So this constructs a turtle window from the Rose graphics file, and then the parentheses are critical. Here's constructing, well, you tell me now, what is it constructing? A simple turtle. From what module? The Rose graphics, RG being short, and you gotta have those parentheses. That's what says to do the construction. Here's another example where it's constructing a simple turtle and giving the system some information during that construction. It's saying construct one that is got the string turtle, which means, I happen to know, to shape it like a turtle. Now the other parts of that are setting Natasha to that object. So we're going to come back to that in a sec. So again, the first thing is to construct an instance of an object, an instance of a class. You put the name of the class in parentheses after that, and anything that's needed in the parentheses. That's the first of 4 ideas you're about to explore. The second is that once you've constructed something, you can give it a name, so you can do stuff with that object later. So that makes Natasha refer to that constructed simple turtle. The third idea is that you can take that object once it's constructed and apply what's called methods to it to make it do things. So there's a window that is a turtle window, and that window can have the delay method applied to it and given the number 20, which controls in part the pace at which the drawing occurs. There's Boris that was constructed to be a simple turtle, and we can make Boris go forward 100 units, those are pixels for what it's worth, or left 90 degrees, that's turning left, or going forward 200. Notice that if we hover over those method names, hover over left here, it brings up the help for the definition of left. Ignore the word self anywhere you see there, but if you ignore that, you'll see that def takes an angle, and then there's some words. So you can even open up that documentation. I just did that there and put it off to a side window. You'll learn lots more about that later, but I thought I'd show it to you while we're here. So the second of the key ideas is you take an object that you've constructed, you put a dot, and you put the thing that you want that object to do. It's called a method. The notation is who does what with what. So Natasha goes backward with the number 50, how far to go. So that's the third, there's some documentation again. That's the third of our 4 things. The first was how you construct an instance of a class. The second, how you can give that instance a name. The third is how you can use that name, and using the who dot what with what pattern can make that object do things. So that's the notation. Lots more coming up on this, just trying to get you started. Let's run it again and see. Here it is. We expect Boris to go forward. There it went forward. It turned left. It went 90 degrees. And then Natasha, whose code we haven't seen, then did this other stuff. Let's go down and look at that code for Natasha. So I think we'll go down there in a sec. Again, we constructed, we assigned an object, we applied a method. Now we're going to look at the fourth and last of our ideas, which is accessing what's called an instance variable, a piece of data associated with the object. So Natasha, for example, has a speed which can be set to 10. Boris also has a speed, and it can be set to Natasha's speed or Natasha's speed plus 5 or anything like that. Let's see that code. Here's the construction of Natasha as a simple turtle, again from the Rose graphics file. This here, quote, turtle, means that it's shaped like a turtle, and if you hover over the documentation there, you'll actually see what shapes are legal. And you can and should experiment with those different shapes. Those are the only shapes that are legal. Natasha has what's called a pen. The pen is what she uses for drawing. This, on the right-hand side, constructs a pen. See the uppercase P-E-N, followed by parentheses, with an RG dot in front of it saying that it's from the Rose graphics file. A pen apparently needs 2 things, a color and a thickness. So here I've given it the color red and the thickness 30. Color red and thickness 30. There are a zillion colors you can use. They're in that colors file there, and you can use any of those words, and you can also do what's called RGB colors, where you say how much red, green, and blue it has. So lots and lots of things you can do with colors. But the simplest is just to give the name of the color in quotes, and most of the things you think are colors are. I seem to have made a typo there briefly, but there we go, ignoring my dragging things. Pens take a color and a thickness. And so we're setting Natasha's pen. Natasha.pen, no parentheses, means Natasha's thing, its characteristic, its pen. Or on this next line, it's going to be Natasha's speed that is set to refer to the number 5. Bigger numbers mean faster, but 10's about the fastest, and the speeds don't really change a lot, even from 1 to 10. So here we have Natasha that is going to go backwards and then turn right and then go forwards and then going to slow down, speed 1, and then Natasha's going to go 2, and then in the parentheses we tell it what to go to, namely an RG.point. A point object, uppercase letters, means a class, parentheses after it means make an instance of that class, a thing of that class. Here a point at -100, 200. 0, 0 is in the middle of the screen, by the way. So anyhow, we should see this. Let's see if we'll run it here in just a sec. And let's see if we see both Boris and Natasha moving. There we go. So here's Boris going off. And that was Natasha. Remember, she had a thick red pen. And what she did is she went and made some movements and then went to the 100. So backward, then turned right, then forward, going down, because that's the way she's facing, and then jumped to the point -100, 200, drawing as she went there. So just showing you that again. There's Boris making his actions, and Natasha, notice how she goes more slowly on the last leg there, because we set Natasha's speed down to 1 after those first movements. So you've now seen these 4 ideas, and you're going to apply them. You're not expected to be an expert on these ideas. You're going to see them tons and tons over the next several sessions, but already you can have a pretty good idea of 4 things. First, constructing an instance of a class. A class is a type of thing. So constructing an instance of a type of thing, constructing a simple turtle, constructing a point. And those things are defined in a module typically, here in the Rose Graphic module, and we've imported Rose Graphics as RG, so RG is shorthand. So again, the first idea was constructing an instance of an object. The second is assigning that constructed instance, that object, that instance of a class, a name. And we do that by picking a name. It can be Natasha, it could be X, it could be anything you want. Just any kind of name. We'll see some more examples coming up. But sometimes people call them a variable. A name that is set to refer via the equal sign to the constructed object. The third one is the who.what with what, which takes the thing, the object, Natasha, and asks her to go forward, that's the does what, with the number 100, go forward 100 pixels, 100 units. And then the fourth of these ideas is that you can access what's called an instance variable of an object, which is a piece of data associated with the object. The notation there is the object, who, dot, and then that, we call it instance variable, that characteristic of the object. So Natasha has a speed, no parentheses. That's how we tell the difference between a method like Natasha.forward parentheses that makes Natasha do something, and Natasha.speed, which just accesses Natasha's speed and sets it to 10 in that example. So we've seen those 4 basic ideas. You're going to learn lots more about them as time goes by, and lots more in this Follow Me, and lots more in class. This is the main thing you'll be doing. So mark that to do is done. And I just want to emphasize that as you are in class, you're expected to ask questions. The goal here is to make you curious about things and then have you ask questions so we can have interesting discussions. That way it'll sink in much better than us trying to lay it out because there are just too many details. We want to stick to the 4 basic concepts and let you apply those concepts in interesting ways. So remember that one of the concepts was that you construct an object. We've already done that. Natasha's been constructed. But then another concept was we can take Natasha and ask her to do things. What I typed there was an N and maybe an A, and then the pop-up showed up. And I just pressed enter to let it type Natasha for me. Then I typed a dot, and I paused. This is what's called the dot trick. So you type a name of an object that you've defined previously in a dot, and then it pops up with all the things that object, that kind of thing, can do. M for method. Ignore the things that begin with underscore, just the things that don't begin with underscore. So you can make it go backwards or forwards, or begin, fill, or clear. All those M things are things that Natasha can do. So I think what I'm going to do is have it draw a circle, if I remember right. It's a little further down. Let's see here. So we'll see if I scroll down a little bit. Maybe, maybe not. There we go. So I typed a D there and then pressed enter to let it select draw circle. It shows me it needs a radius, or I can hover over draw circle and it shows me some more documentation, including an example, Sally dot draw circle 40. For names, notice how we're putting the part of a name and using underscores to separate parts of the name. So this is going to make it draw a circle of radius 50. There's Boris moving. Here comes Natasha, and there she goes drawing her circle, that code that we've just written together. Pause the video at this point and type in Natasha and a dot and make her do something that's interesting, or Boris and a dot, either one. But just experiment some with Natasha dot or Boris dot and making them do things. Pause the video now and experiment a little bit with that. And then after you've done so, resume this video and we'll pick up from here. If you haven't yet experimented the dot trick, definitely do so. You might want to try draw a regular polygon, for example. But whatever you want, type Natasha or Boris. Those are the two of the objects we've made, and then a dot, and then play around with what you can make it do, and then run it and make sure it works. Now, if you make any errors, it's very easy to do so. And if you do make errors, no problem, no problem. It's a non-goal to learn how to deal with error messages today. That's session 2. But so if you make any messages, see if you can fix the error. But if you can't, no worries. We'll show you in class. In class, you can ask a question and we'll fix it then. So our goal here is just to get these fundamental concepts: constructing an object, running a method, the who dot what does what with what, and accessing its data, who dot, and then the instance variable, the characteristic of the object. And then to see how, by using things like the pop-up help and the dot trick, you can guess from that lots of stuff. Now here, those two that I'm focusing on now, the yellow ones, have F, which is F, which stands for field, which is another word for what we'll call instance variables. Field is the word that the language Java likes. Instance variable is the more traditional for Python. Anyhow, so this is setting Boris's pen, no parentheses, to refer to an RG pen. What do I need there to construct a pen? Yes, I need parentheses, uppercase P, constructing a pen. And I'm going to construct one and give it a color. I think I'll try rose. And then I also need to give it a thickness. And I'll put some number there. And again, I discovered that from that pop-up help there. So I'm going to try constructing a pen with rose and a certain thickness. Now we're going to see in just a minute that was an error, but I want to let you see that error. So hang loose there. If you try to do rose, it won't work for you. So just watch what happens here. We're going to set Boris's pen to a pen, and then we're going to have Boris move somewhere with that hopefully rose-colored pen. But in just a moment, we're going to see that rose was an unfortunate choice. So let's see it run and see what we got. So when it runs, well, there is Boris moving along, and then Natasha's going to do her movements, and then she'll draw her circle, and then we're going to attempt to do stuff with Boris's pen. But what happens is off to the right, it crashes. Now, those error messages are going to take you a while to get used to, but even today, you can probably guess what's going on. It says bad color string, Rose. Apparently, much to my dismay, Rose is not a legal color name. So I'm just going to change it to something safe. I'll go with green because I'm sure that that's a legal color name, and then run it again. With software, you can't do any damage, so you can play around and just see how things go. So there's Natasha finishing upward movements. Here's Boris shifting off to a green pen and going backwards with it. Green pen, thickness 5. So that's an example of doing that. So go ahead and experiment some with that dot trick, making them do things, and just experiment with the dot trick a little bit. And once you're comfortable with the dot trick, go up there and mark that to do as done and resume the video. So pause the video while you experiment a little bit with object dot and then either something to do or whatever. So do some experiments, pause the video and experiment, and then resume, then mark to do 4 is done and resume the video. Alrighty, to do 5, I'm going to actually leave to you, but I want to point out what you're going to do. You're going to add some more lines of code to make some things happen. Nothing fancy is required. There's another exercise later that's where you'll show your creativity. So don't even try to make it do fancy pictures here. It's a non-goal of M4. It's a big goal of, I think it's M8 or something. So save your creativity for later. But for this one, when you're in class, you're going to type some code there that makes Natasha and Boris do things, and then you're going to construct an object of your own, give it a name. Names, like it says there what kind of things names can be, and then you're going to do the commit and push. So our goal here was to use 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's it for the Follow Me, learning these 4 principles here, and then playing around to experiment with them in class. So that concludes this Follow Me video. Again, to do's 1 through 4, the rest you'll do in class.